Hi, my name is Craig Morong, and on behalf of Atlantic Financial Partners, we thank you for viewing this presentation on the investment opportunities in water. We hope that through this you'll gain an introspective on some of the trends facing the water industry today. Especially noted thanks to our friends at Sustainable Asset Management for supplying a number of the statistics. SAM is a pioneer in sustainable asset management and manages one of the most successful water funds in the industry. When we think about water scarcity, we tend to consider climate change as one of the mitigating factors. Nothing has brought this belief to the forefront of people's attention than the recent movie An Inconvenient Truth.
Look at the 10 hottest years ever measured. They've all occurred in the last 14 years, and the hottest of all was 2005. This is Patagonia 75 years ago and the same glacier today. This is Mount Kilimanjaro 30 years ago and last year. Within the decade, there will be no more snows of Kilimanjaro. This is really not a political issue so much as a moral issue. Temperature increases are taking place all over the world, and that's causing stronger storms.
This is the biggest crisis in the history of this country.
Early this morning, Hurricane Katrina slammed into New Orleans.
Our ability to live is what is at stake.
Now, an area that's affecting all of us is the melting of the glaciers. Glaciers are the main source of fresh drinking water around the world, and as you can see by these examples, they're melting, and they're melting pretty quickly. Now, this affects the water supply in two ways. First, it creates flooding, and then eventually it creates droughts. Let's take a look at the global trends that are shaping the water industry and creating investment opportunities for savvy investors. First, the world's becoming more and more populated. Second, our infrastructure is decaying. Third, there's an increase in health awareness issues affecting the water supply. And then finally, climate change. Let's take a look at each one. The world's population has approximately more or less 6.7 billion people in it. It's estimated to increase to about 9 billion over the next 50 years. That's a 30% increase, and without a doubt, it's going to place more demand on water supplies, industrial usage, and agriculture going forward. Now, speaking of agriculture, it's an interesting fact that 70%, that's 70% of water is used for agriculture purposes, 20% for industrials, and just 10% for human consumption. The SAM Sustainable Water Fund invests in companies that will provide water purification and desalination technologies. A good example would be the Singapore-based company HyFlux, which is a desalination play for China. The next trend is literally right below our feet, water infrastructure. Now, much of this was created in the late 18th century, early 19th century. Massive amounts of money is being lost through leaks. Like, for example, in London, it's 40% of the water supply is lost by leakage. And they're not alone. In Boston, it's 36% and 20% in New York. And the emerging markets are much worse. Now, what you have in front of you is the Canton burn, anything but an emerging market. It's in Switzerland. The greenish bar is actually the existing infrastructure. The bluish shade is actually what needs to be replaced, the entire amount. Hundreds of billions of dollars are going to be spent on improving the infrastructure. Companies such as Sudafed and Jacobs Engineering could be poised to benefit from this trend. The next is health awareness. It's another trend that's becoming more and more in the spotlight. Now, it's kind of interesting to see what I mean. Just when you're done with the presentation, go take a look at a search engine and type in 3 words: hormones, water, and supply. And just for kicks, throw in the city that you're living in. You'll see what I mean. Every 10 years or so, something nasty hits the water supply. First, it was phosphates caused by laundry detergent. that led to algae blooms. Microbes became a problem, much of which has been eradicated by the use of filters. Now we have what we call endocrine disruptors. Now, these cause adverse biological effects in animals and possibly humans. Filtration companies such as Paul and Trojan might benefit from this trend. The last trend, and probably the most serious, is climate change. For every increase in temperature, as noted by the Stern report, serious consequences occur for both agriculture and water, and this could also cause extreme weather. From the 1750s to now, the world has increased in temperature 0.8 degrees Celsius, and you've seen the impact that this has had so far. You know, the scary thing is that many experts are suggesting there could be an increase of 3 to 5 degrees Celsius by 2100. And that's just a moderate forecast. But let's just assume for a moment that climate change remains the same as it is today, and it doesn't get that bad. We are still seeing opportunities out there around the world. China, for example, China has a population of about 1.3 billion people. And by a fluke in nature, it has one of the lowest amounts of internal fresh drinking water per person. If you take a closer look, you'll see that 600 million people don't have access to fresh drinking water. Close to 60% of the rivers are too polluted to drink from. It is estimated that the government is spending 1.5 to 2.8% of GDP to combat this problem. And they're not alone. Brazil is spending $40 billion on water and sanitation projects. In the U.S., Governor Schwarzenegger has promised up to $35 billion for water investment. These figures may increase as the stimulus package becomes reality. So how can one invest in the water sector these days? Let's take a look at a couple ways. Now, outside of making individual stock picks, it really comes down to if the investor is more comfortable with, let's say, the passive approach, which would be best done through an ETF such as PHO or PIO, or an actively managed approach through a mutual fund. We're most familiar with the latter. Sustainable Asset Management has been the pioneer of sustainable investments in water. The lead manager, Dieter Kuffer, has managed the fund since inception in September 2001. He's earned many accolades. His universe is approximately 150 companies. To be added to the portfolio, at least 20% of the company's revenues need to be water related. Let's take a closer look. With the exception of 2008, performance has been compelling, with the fund outperforming its benchmark, which is the MSCI World Index, every year since 2001, with the exception of 2005, when the fund gained when the index, gained 26%, the fund was up 23%. Now, 2008's performance was affected by the fund's assets in emerging markets and small mid-cap companies. The manager's approach, though, is to stay the course, and he believes that he's well positioned when the markets stabilize. The fund has close to 890 million euro. It's well diversified with approximately 70 positions. With 15% dedicated to Asia and Australia, the fund could benefit strongly from a rebound in those markets. Over 80% of the fund's assets are classified in small or mid-cap companies. Many of these companies have lost substantial market capitalization during the recent market downturn. For the most part, these are quality companies with quality earnings that have been thrown out with the bathwater. We thank you for taking time to view this presentation. Given the macro trends discussed, the investment opportunities in water will only grow with time. The key, we believe, is A, investing with a manager who has experience, B, a good team, and C, the financial acumen to take advantage of these opportunities. Thank you.